This economy right now is twice as large as it was in 1980. But most people don't know that because their wages, if they have jobs, their wages have stagnated for 3 decades. In fact, they've been going down. If you adjust for inflation, they've been actually going down. Now, where's the money gone? If the economy is twice as large as it was 3 decades ago, and if most people have not seen a wage increase, in fact, most people's wages are going down and they're losing their jobs, where did the money go? Upstairs. It went to the top 1%. A lot of it went to the top 1/10 of 1%. Now, look, when I talk about this kind of stuff, when you talk about it, many people say, oh, this is class warfare. It is not class warfare. What it is a recognition that the system has got out of kilter, out of balance. What we want to do is the same thing the progressives did at the turn of the last century, the same thing that FDR did in the 1930s, the same thing that we tried to do in the 1960s, and we certainly did with civil rights and voting rights. What that is to save the system from itself, save capitalism, because capitalism cannot function when so much income and wealth are going to the top. Why do you think there's not enough demand for the goods and services that are being produced in this country? Exactly. There's not enough demand because consumers whose spending is 70% economy, they're worried about their jobs, they're worried about their wages, they're worried, and so they're not going to spend. And if they're not going to spend, who's going to create jobs if there are no customers? You see the vicious cycle we get into when so much income and wealth go to the top. But it's not just the economy that suffers. It's also our democracy. Because when you have an economy in which, and let me just give you some facts, and you probably know these facts already, but we've all got to make sure we have the facts together because they are truth, and we've got to speak the truth over and over again. In the 1970s, when I began to look at all of this stuff, the top 1% were getting about 9% of total income. I thought that was pretty bad, but it seemed to me that, well, maybe that's what's needed in order to provide entrepreneurs and inventors enough incentive to continue to be entrepreneurs and inventors. But then income kept on concentrating more and more and more. By 2007, the top 1% was no longer getting 9% of total income. By 2007, the top 1% was getting 23.5% of total income. And then you know what happened in 2008. Financial capitalism has taken over from real capitalism. Financial capitalism is taking over from products and services, from people that actually produce goods and services. And that has distorted our entire system. When so much money and so much income are at the top, and by the way, the 400 richest Americans right now have more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans put together. When you get that much income and wealth at the top, inevitably, some people at the top, not all people at the top, but some of them are going to abuse their income and wealth and corrupt the political system. I don't want to mention names like Charles and David Koch. That would not be nice of me. That would not be fair. But they, each of them, worth $25 billion. Each of them worth $25 billion. What they are doing is using a chunk of their fortune to pollute and corrupt American democracy. And why are they doing that? Because they want to entrench themselves. They are they make petrochemicals. They want to stop the environmental movement. They want to create doubts about whether there is, in fact, climate change. They want to cut the budget. They don't want taxes to be raised. They and other people at the top are using their political muscle to entrench their power and privilege, and we cannot allow that in America. We must take America back because it is too precious. Our democracy is too precious to allow it to fall in the hands of a few people. Now I know some people say, oh, this Occupy movement, there are no demands. They haven't got their act together. They're not a political movement yet. But let me assure you, many of you have been, as I have been, involved in years past with the civil rights movement, the anti-Vietnam movement, many other movements in this country that at their beginning, in their first months or even in their first years, we weren't sure about exactly what the demands were going to be, but we were motivated by a moral vision. A moral vision. A moral vision of what America could be. And so I say to you, whenever you come across people and say, oh, the occupiers don't have their acts together, you tell them there is a powerful and indestructible moral vision underlying this movement. And it is a vision of a fair and a just economy and a democracy that works for everyone. And finally, let me just say, it's not going to be easy. Nothing worth doing in terms of social change in this country is easy. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. I know many of you who have been involved. You've talked to me about sometimes you feel a little frustrated. Sometimes you feel it's just a huge amount of work. You don't get very much credit for it. You worry that it's just never going to change. But I'll tell you something. There is nothing more powerful than people mobilized and organized and energized to make America stronger and better and truer to its core principles. And that's what you are doing. This movement will not end. This movement cannot end. This movement will continue, and nothing will be able to stop it once it has started.